Hi everyone. Just did a psychic reading for the Chitra new moon, which should be on Empress Justice Tarot if you want to go check it out. I've done 4 signs so far. I've done Libra, Aries, Scorpio, and Gemini. I wanted to do Capricorn today, but at a certain time is my cutoff point for doing tarot readings. I've decided that um, not just because it's a noise pollution thing, but simply to give myself some breathing space to kind of gather my thoughts and everything. So I've had like fits of anger for a while now, and I'm pretty sure that it's brain frequency modulation interference that's been causing that change of mood in me. Because usually when I get like really, really angry like that, there's usually a crime taking place somewhere else because, again, frequency modulation hacking, it affects more than one person at one time. So yeah, I have been feeling like unnaturally angry at my situation for the last few days now. And it's only in the last few days that it's actually calmed down. Because again, it's gang stalking. Gang stalking happens in abuse cycles. So right now what's going on is a quiet stage because people want me angry, but it never happens the way they want it to. Now they're calming down. Now the gang stalkers are calming down. Now the perps are calming down and all the rest of it. So now things are kind of quieting down, although I'm pretty sure I heard a racial slur outside at one point. It's nothing new. It really is nothing new at this point. Like, it's like, and that racism is basically what's causing the country to tank anyway. So like if I suspected at all that hurting me was doing the world any good, I would still react the way that I used to react 10 years ago. Like every slight was making people happy, making people joyful. But now, I've had the scales taken away from my eyes, and I've had now I can see clearly. Now I'm starting to understand that when I said that when people come after me, they hurt themselves. Now I'm starting to see that shit in action. So racial slurs, like social isolation, like again, what are you isolating? You're isolating somebody that could have actually helped you, navigate this shit. But instead, like, you want to downvote somebody who is doing nothing but tarot readings. You want to downvote somebody who's trying to stop trafficking. You want to downvote somebody who's trying to stop rape. You want to downvote somebody who's trying to stop the abuse of children. You want to downvote somebody who's trying to stop racism, trying to stop sexism. At this point, given the results of that behavior, it really just reveals more about the perps than it does about me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not getting as angry as I could be. It's mildly annoying, but it's not, it doesn't anger me anymore because I know what happens every single time somebody comes after me with the bullshit. They hurt themselves. What's the point? What's the point in getting angry at this point? And especially seeing as we're in a quiet phase anyway. So what's the point in that? Case in point, I reached out to Brighton and Hove Council again because I'm doing this thing of chasing people up, like, to get housing because I'm supposed to be out of here in November. So I'm doing this thing of chasing people up because I don't want the bailiffs called on me. I don't want anything like that, even though my credit rating's in the 4, so it doesn't matter. I don't want like bailiffs knocking at the door or whatever. So like I've basically tried to hurry Brighton and Hove Council up. And this is the thing, right? Brighton and Hove Council, like every other council, are completely inundated because predictably austerity, Brexit, and the whole pandemonium has resulted in a lot of people losing their homes due to property, real estate crashes, economy crashes, and the like. So a lot of people are losing their homes, and there's a lot more homeless than there used to be, right? And in the UK, it's especially bad. There's an especially bad homelessness problem, even though there's God knows how many empty properties that nobody's filled yet. So I hurried up Brighton and Hove Council. So your move got back to me today. And at first I thought it was a waste of my time, because all they did was call me and, clarify my name, ask me what my budget was for a new flat. I explained the budget, and they said, it's just yourself. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah. They said, what's my budget? I explained the budget, but I said, I'm willing to be more flexible, and I'm willing to move anywhere as long as it's a clean environment and as long as it's, up to living standard. So they hung up the phone. And at first I thought it was a waste of my time. But then, as somebody over the phone explained to me, they want to get all the information so that they can write it down. Now I'm kind of puzzled at that, because they would already have the information, brought to them anyway, or they should have all the information brought to them. It shouldn't be like pockets of information left out, and especially not that. But it does make me wonder why they would need it to be repeated again so that they could write it down. It does make me wonder. But yeah, your move got back to me today, and they said that if they found anything, they would let me know. So that's what's going to happen. If they find anything, they will let me know. So it looks like I have direct contact with your move. Okay. So there's another thing that I mentioned with regards to the email that I sent the council. And what I captioned it with is something that I can synthesize thus, right? When it comes to my living situation, the rents that I have seen for properties like mine, and especially along the South Coast, they're very fucking expensive, right? They're expensive in a way that it's not living here at the moment. So the way I see it is this: the second I move out, they would either have to up their rent to make up the difference. They would either have to up the rent of, whoever moved in next, or they would have to up the rent of whoever moved in next, and thus up the rent of absolutely everybody else living there, right? So that's what they would have to do. They would have to do that, or they would have to get completely new neighbors, which they're not going to do. And my thing is this, right? If I'm going to stay here, why would I stay here for increased rent? Why would I stay here for increased rent, knowing that there are gang stalkers upstairs that are basically paid to be there? Why would I do that? And why would I stick around a place that is known for fucking hate crime? Hate crime is already on the rise all over the country. Why would I stay in a particular village that is known for hate crime at a time where hate crime is on the increase? Why would I do that? So that means that either way, when I leave here, it doesn't matter what happens. When I leave here, the landlords lose money. They lose money. Either way. If I stay here and I don't leave, and they try to make me leave, the way it works is that they can't just toss my belongings out on the street as soon as I'm out of the place. They can't just do that, because there's laws against that. You've seen it in Brighton and Hove, like local news and things like that. Like shit like that is unlawful. It's an unlawful thing to do. They can't just toss your shit out the second that the deadline approaches. They can't just do that. And the thing is, this is one of the reasons why back in London, even though I had reached the actual deadline, they tried everything in their power to make me stay. First of all, because like, if it took bailiffs to have to make me leave that flat, technically they could say, you know what, we don't want to kick her out. We wanted to stay. So I believe that's what happened back in London 5 years ago. I believe they wanted me to stay there so that they could get the courts involved or get the bailiffs involved or threaten to get them involved or something like that. And then decide at the last minute, oh yeah, we wanted to stay. Because they knew it would lead to the exact kind of situation that it's leading to right now. I bet you any money that's why Brent Mind wanted me to stay down there in London. Bet you any money that was the reason. Because it always is about money. So if I choose to stay here, and it's not really a choice because where else am I going to go? When the 9th of November deadline reaches, in order for the landlords to get me out, they have to have bailiffs in order to do it. That's why I'm trying to leave, trying to get a place before the bailiff situation. Because as soon as the bailiffs come around, these landlords are going to fucking change their minds and try to get out of the bluff that they put in front of me. They're going to try and get out of it. Right? And let's just say for argument's sake that they get bailiffs involved and they don't try to get out of that shit and they don't leave me in possession of the flat. I still have to find somewhere anyway. That's why I'd rather find somewhere before the bailiffs get involved. But yeah, they can't just kick you out like that on the day of the deadline. They can't just do that. Especially as you know, the NHS loves saying, they love to diagnose me paranoid schizophrenic. You can't leave a paranoid schizophrenic person out on the fucking street. You can't do it. So like, there are all these factors in play. But again, because of the price of a 1-bedroom flat literally anywhere, it's very, very difficult to find like even private tenancy that are willing to work with the council now. It's very, very difficult to find. And because it's very difficult to find, you've got to up the budget. And if you've got to up the budget, it means as soon as I leave here, then the landlords have got to up the budget. And that's just the best case scenario. It means the landlords have got to up the budget. They've got to up the rent. They've got to up the rent as soon as I leave here. Because whoever moves back in here, they're going to have to pay the same price, the same kind of prices that I've been expected to pay. Or the same kind of prices that I'm expected to pay when I move into somewhere new. Because this is fucking Brighton and it's a prime location. It's a prime location. So they're going to have to up it as soon as I leave. And they can't just turn around and up it when I'm staying here. Because again, why the fuck would I pay through the nose for perps that are paid to live here? So it affects everyone. It doesn't just affect me. It doesn't just affect the Logans. It affects everybody else that lives in this building. So that's what I'm saying. Gang stalking directly affects housing because really think about it. If you've got council houses in which one person is a target or a couple of people are targets and one person is a paid perp, paid to live there, paid to harass targeted individuals out of their homes, right? What's going to happen is that when the TI leaves, the rent goes up. And the rent keeps going up, keeps going up, keeps going up, keeps going up until it's unsustainable for poorer people to live there, especially vulnerable people. So what happens? Poorer people get displaced, which leads to landlords leaving no choice but to sell up or increase the rent. And when they do that, who takes possession of the housing? If the landlords are not able to hang on to their housing through increased rent, then what happens to their properties? Their properties get annexed. They get annexed by bigger corporations. And stuff like that is partially why people are increasingly homeless, is partially because of gang stalking. Because there are people who are paid to create shittier communities so that homes and properties can be sold off at a fraction of the price to people who could already afford to pay premiums. So gang stalking is directly contributing to the housing issue for poorer people directly. Because stories like mine are not rare. Stories like mine are, are 10 a penny. There are God knows how many stories I've heard of people living in council properties and people upstairs from them or next door from them deliberately harassing them in a bid to chase them out of that property. But what happens when they are chased out of that property? The rent fucking goes up. And if people can't pay the rent, landlords can't pay their mortgage. And if landlords can't pay their mortgage, the bank takes that shit. And after the bank takes that shit, who buys up the properties? Bigger corporations, bigger companies. Now, what I've broken down is a simplistic version of that. It's a simplistic version of that. I'm sure there are some economists who can lay down a more complex version of what I've just said, but basically that's what it amounts to. Gang stalking is directly responsible, in a partial way at least, to the housing bubble in this way. Because we have no shortage of dickheads willing to take money, willing to be bought cheap so that they can make life harder for other poorer and more vulnerable people. Now we have a housing crisis where things are worse than ever out here. And once again, like I said before, gang stalking weaponizes racism, weaponizes misogyny, weaponizes queerphobia, transphobia, weaponizes ageism against elders and children, weaponizes ableism, like in my case, mental illness and stuff, weaponizing ableism, weaponizing physically disabled people with the remote weapon being fired directly on their bodies constantly. All of these things add up. All of these things add up. And they add up to housing crises, to economic crashes, and these economic crashes and housing crises, they contribute to the current climate of fascism being on the rise because people are angry and they want somewhere to put their anger, somewhere easy to put their anger in particular. Where easiest than people who are black and brown? Where easiest than with trans people? Where easiest than with queer people? Where easiest than with women and children and elderly people? Where easiest than disabled people? And that's how it works. That's how gang stalking contributes to the housing crisis and the economic crises that we're seeing. That's how gang stalking directly contributed to that shit. And the cleverness of this whole thing is that they rat themselves out through controlled opposition to give us hope, to give us false hope and make us inactive. It all adds up. It all adds up over time. Something as simple as a family harassing one single woman. It seems like nothing at first. It really seems like nothing at first. But over the years, when you hear more stories of the same thing happening over and over, you start to see how that shit builds up. You start to see how that shit builds up. You start to see how poorer people and marginalized people are becoming more and more drastically affected by the actions of gang stalking and the actions of intelligence fucking destroying communities from the inside. So that's what, one of the reasons why, when it comes to insults, if I want to say something back, I'll say something back. If I don't, I just leave it. I do what I want to do for the simple reason that when they do what they want to do, people end up homeless. People end up sicker than they need to be. They already want to privatize the NHS. In fact, the NHS has been privatized for a long time and it's still going. It's still going to the point where more and more people are choosing private healthcare. This was always the plan. It was more like Nigel Farage is not the one to start this shit. This was always the plan, and gang stalking directly contributed to that happening. How many How many people have I met that are doctors, police officers, psychiatrists that were part of this gang stalking shit? Even people within charities were part of this gang stalking shit. People who were patients, who are mentally ill people, were part of this gang stalking shit. There are people who are in part of whole communities that were part of this gang stalking shit, who deliberately contributed to the targeting of one person to the point where economies and properties and quality of life have been drastically reduced. Yeah, I'm a black C word. I heard it before. Yeah, I'm a mad woman. I heard it before. Heard it before. And look where the fuck you ended up. Is it even worth it anymore? Yeah, my. I'm sorry, downvoting, downvoting videos. Even the act of downvoting my videos, look where it got everyone. Look where it got everyone. All the hexes, hex attempts, curse attempts. Look at where it got everybody. All the intimidation, the humiliation, the yelling, the fucking cussing, the needless bullying. Look where it got everybody. And the richer these people are, the more normal their lives appear to be, is the more they think they're safe. I can't wait. I can't wait. That's gonna be hilarious. That's gonna be interesting. And all of this because people had the choice to be kind, to be honest, to maybe even be better people than the people they would end up targeting. They had the choice to do that, and they said no. They had the choice to do that, to use their empathy, to ask questions. They had the opportunity to be kind to people that they perceived as lesser. They said no. And this is the thing. People will always choose comfort over the truth. They will always choose morale over morality. And the people who approach them, ask them questions, yeah, they knew that. They know what people are willing to choose when push comes to shove. In life, everyone always has a choice. And if people are saying, it's either I join in gang stalking or die, well, you can choose to die. It's still a choice. You can choose to join gang stalking. It's still a choice at the end of the day. And before people get into the slavery argument, slavery and gang stalking are not the fucking same at all. Gang stalking and slavery are not the same. Perps are not slaves. I mean, I call them slaves because, but they're not really slaves. They're more like indentured servants, which is not the fucking same. You have the choice to say no. You have the choice to say no, to sound the alarm. You could have picked kindness, honesty and decency. You chose the other option. So this is the situation that we've ended up in. You chose the other option. So here we are. Here we are. And yes, there are times where I feel angry and I grieve for the life that I could have had and the privileges that I could have had. But then I also think to myself, would those privileges have been worth it? Because I keep hearing things about the life that I would have had, or the circles I would have frequented, and I'm thinking to myself, is that really fucking worth it? I don't think it is. Hell no, I'm not about to fucking, turn a blind eye to defense companies augmenting my star power. Fuck that noise. Oh my God. Fuck that noise. Hell no. Hell no. If I'm gonna have people be fans of mine, I'd rather, even me having my ideas stolen from me, even me being bitten from is not organic. Even that setup, even that is pre-orchestrated. Is there anything in this world that's real? Is there anything in this world that's real? Anything at all? So, yeah, I want to get the fuck up out of here before the bailiffs start knocking or before these landlords can have the opportunity to change their fucking minds. Now, likely they're going to try sectioning again because usually that's what happens. When a mentally ill person is deemed to be homeless, um, what will happen usually is that that person will be sectioned, right? So it really wouldn't surprise me that they would try that again. Doesn't surprise me. Okay. Doesn't surprise me. And as for killing me, like this was already a slow murder effort, but, desperation of the perps and desperation of the people involved in my case are something that I have learned to never underestimate, because the pain of another person and the acknowledgement of the person that they're hurting, it's like a drug to them. Remember, as a targeted individual, like in the same way people are in parasocial relationships with celebrities, when you are a targeted individual, people are in a parasocial relationship with you. Hell, there are even actors who are gang stalkers. And not even just like gang stalkers of other actors and other entertainers. I mean gang stalkers of ordinary fucking people. So even those people can form parasocial relationships with ordinary people that they have been instructed to target. I know one in particular, not going to mention their name, but I know one in particular. And that's all I'll say on that. Okay. But remember, TIs, the perps have a parasocial relationship with us. They're fixated with us. So it doesn't matter how much they hurt us. It doesn't matter how much wrong they do to us or how much they put us through. They're always going to want some form of acknowledgement from us. And they're always going to want some form of fear, some form of grief, some form of, to let them know that they're powerful, right? And when they don't get that, they get desperate. They get desperate. And yeah. And they, another thing is that gang stalkers will do and say deliberately stupid things just so that you can be annoyed by it and just so you can be like, oh, that's so dumb. Oh, that's so dumb. That's how desperate they are. They will even debase themselves for the slightest bit of acknowledgement from you. Because in their mind, any attention equals power, even though we've seen as a result of the world around us, we've seen that's not true, but that's how they see it. And as they raise this world to the ground with their bullshit, that is how they're going to continue to see it. So yes, gang stalking has contributed directly to everything that we're seeing right now. All the chaos, all the death, all the grief, all of it. The rise of AI, all of it. If you think that gang stalking doesn't use AI, they've been using nanotechnology for a minute now against targeted individuals. They've been using fucking, Morgellons and fucking nanotechnology, all that shit against targeted individuals for decades now. Everything that we see right now, a big chunk of that is because of gang stalking. and it goes from the bottom all the way to the very top. This human trafficking, this social engineering, it's pervasive, and it's perpetuated by people who are rotten to the fucking core, who protect the people that the rest of us in society are taught to hate: traffickers, child abusers, racists, misogynists. So that's it for me. That was just a rant, really. It was just a rant. It was just a rant and an update. So yeah, I will see you guys another time, and we will talk soon. Marsha the Great out. Bye bye.